Good afternoon, everybody. So, Jonathan Pickup here. I've been teaching Vectorworks for probably 30 years now. It started when I was in England and I carried on when I came to New Zealand. So I have been teaching for a long time. I did write several of the Vectorworks manuals. I think I wrote 4 of their main manuals when they were selling printed copies, and I updated those about 8 times. So I've really learnt to use Vectorworks well. I've got my own website. It's much more like a community. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can join me later. But I'm going to use a file, I should say. Today we're going to cover viewports. Now what we're going to cover today is all of my tricks with dealing with viewports. So we're going to look at viewport styles. We're going to look at how we make viewports. So we're going to go through a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm going to start with a file that I've already created. Now this is a file from one of my courses called Vectorworks for Domestic Design. So let's have a look here. That's weird. I can't get back to Vectorworks. Is that better? Oh, that's better. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got a file with lots of information already created. So you can see I've got here all the layers that I need, and I'm going to go through how I create viewports from those layers. I'm going to start with my site. Let's have a look at my site model, and we're going to have a look at creating a site plan. And I've got lots of information here which I may not want, so I need to have a north arrow. North is straight up the page. There's my north arrow there. So I could create a site plan like that. But when I do, you might find that it doesn't fit well on my page. So I'm going to rotate my view. Now rotating the view is something I do a lot. There's a button just up here. Let me just move this out of the way. That's my resource manager. Make it slightly smaller. Here's my rotate plan here. So I can click on that. I could click on the edge of my site, like here. Click on the other edge here. And Vectorworks will rotate my view. Now it's only a temporary rotation. So that will allow me now to create a nice site plan. I'm going to use a rectangle to do that, but before I do it, why not hide some of the stuff that's on here so that it doesn't get in the way? Hi everybody. Hey, my name's Jonathan Pickup. Welcome to my YouTube Live. Good to see you here. I'm going to cover viewports today. Now I've already gotten started because I made a mistake, but let's go back to what I wanted to cover. So let's have a look. So this is my plan here. It's a file from one of my earlier projects. It's from my course called Vectorworks for Domestic Design, and it focuses on using Vectorworks Architect for drawing buildings, or domestic buildings, not commercial buildings. I'm going to rotate my view, so the first thing I'm going to do is create my site plan. So let's rotate that view. Now once I've got the view rotated, it's just a temporary view, and I can use this again and again, this rotated view, and it doesn't change any of my data. It's just a temporary change in the rotation. Hey, if you want to chat, don't forget to leave me a note. Love to know what you want me to cover. And don't forget to write any questions you've got. So when we look here, I want to make this into a site plan, but there's information here I don't want to see. So if I use my selection tool, let's look at this object here. What's that? It's on my site camera. We've got some other information on recession planes, and I tend to use my visibility tool for that. This one here, tend to use classes. That way when I hit that class, they'll all disappear. Not the site. That's what I want to hide. So I've got that information. I should really show an outline of the proposed house. I haven't got that on at the moment, but we're going to talk mainly about making viewports. So I'm going to start with an object like this. It's just a rectangle. And I'm going to make that into a viewport. So view on the menu bar, create viewport. So there we are, we've got the viewport. Now we haven't got a styled viewport. So in this case here, we've got a series of layers that we might want, site model for example, a bunch of classes that we might might want or not want. You can see most of them are turned on, except for the things I didn't want. I don't think that will make any difference. Sight cameras has been turned off, and recession planes. So maybe you do this a lot, and you could save this as a view, as a style. You could save this as a viewport style. So where are we going to put this? We're going to put this on the site plan layer. Do we need a drawing label? We've got one here we could use. We'll use that one. We've got a number. We need to give it a title. Site plan. Scale. I'm not sure whether 1 to 100 is going to fit. If we're doing imperial, we might use 3/8. Where's it gone? 3/16 maybe. 1 to 64, an eighth. It's about 1 to 100. Or 3/32, which is 1 to 28. So I tend to use metric sizes, so either 1 to 100 or 1 to 200. I don't have a clip cube, so I'm not going to use that. And I'm going to project any screen plane objects that I might have, because I might have some sort of screen plane objects like dimensions or text. So it's a top plan view. It's in wireframe. The none there, projection 2D. Let's click OK. And you can see it doesn't fit. So the next thing I'm going to do is have a look here and change the scale to 1 to 200, because I know that will fit. Now, if you want to use a scale that's not listed, we go to custom, and we're going to make that 1 to 150. And that just about fits on my page. Now, it might be what's better is to get rid of this title block and have a horizontal one. And so we could replace this with, I'm not sure whether this file has any other horizontal. It doesn't have any, so I'm going to have to put up with it. So at that scale, at this size, it doesn't fit. So I'm going to make that 1 to 200. And that's my site plan on there. So you can see the site plan has got a crop. It's cropping off everything that we don't need. And we can edit that crop by right-clicking and choosing Edit Crop. So it might be that you want to get rid of those houses up there, or you might want to show a bit more so that someone can see a little bit more of the context. If we right-click again, we can edit the annotations. I can grab my label. I can move my label out of the way. Okay, to that. And that's our site plan. Now, it's pretty straightforward. I know the house doesn't fit. Don't worry about that. It's a pretty straightforward technique, I think, creating the site plan like that. We rotated the view, we placed it on the screen, and we've got what we want. Don't forget, if you've got a question, leave me a chat. I'm looking at it now, so I've got some notes there. Okay, what's next? Let's go back to our floor plan. So we're going to go back to our slab plan or our foundation plan. Let's have a look. What have we got? We got any foundation? So there's my foundation. Now you notice this time my house is not square to the site. So what I might want to do is to rotate that so that it's square on the page. So again, I'm going to use my rotate tool, and I'm going to use the Z key or the Z key to zoom in temporarily. To click there, we can use the snap loop again, click there, and now my house is perpendicular to my site, to my page. So this is going to be perpendicular to my page. So I'm going to create another viewport. Now I could just create the viewport, but I often find it easier to start with a rectangle like that to get going again. Now I'm going to delete the dimensions. No, I'll leave the dimensions. So another day what I'd like to do is come back and look at the dimensions. Now there's objects here that I may not want. It's a site modifier. So I'm going to use my visibility tool again. What don't we want to see? We don't want to see that. And it's hidden a lot of information. What was that? It hid, oh, that's all on the none class. So we can't use our visibility tool to hide some of that. I've got my site plan or my site model there, so that just gets rid of a whole lot of stuff. What about my visibility tool again? So it's my keyboard shortcut. I've got a keyboard shortcut to my visibility tool. This object here is a site modifier and should be on the site-DTM modifier class. If I put it on that class, it's now easy for me to hide, because I can get my visibility tool, I can click on that, and I don't lose any other information. So now I'm going to make a viewport for the next one. Let's make a rectangle and view, create viewport. Now I'll tell you what would be really quick. If you're going to do this a lot, add that create viewport to your right mouse click. I think that would be super quick. So let's try that. Let's go customize. I'm going to look at menus and object context menu. So what have we got here? I don't have create viewport. I've got roof face, create roof. So what I'll do is I'll add a separator here, and then I'll find view menu. Where's create viewport? Let's put that in there, because that's going to speed me up. Now every time I create a viewport, I place a rectangle, I right click, and I can go create viewport, and it brings up that same dialog box. Now again, if I had styles, it would be real easy for me to grab styles from my library. Now these are the Vectorworks styles that are already there. Maybe they'll work, maybe they won't. But you do need to go through these and check them. I've got some here, I've got my perspective ones, there's my elevations. We've got some here, let's have a look, plan sections. I don't have I've got a roof plan, but I don't have a regular plan. So let's cancel that. So I don't have a viewport. This is going on my foundation plan. It's going to have a drawing label, and we're going to put foundation plan. Foundation plan. Now at the moment it's naming my viewport, says the drawing number sheet number. So it's 1/002. Now that might be okay if I could remember what sheet 2 was all about. But I really can't. So what I tend to do is to copy that information, put it there, and call it VP. So I know it's the viewport. Now the reason that's useful is that later on when I edit my layers and my classes and I add information to my project, I can use that viewport name to edit the settings of that viewport. So let's have a look. So we got the viewport, we got the foundation plan, drawing number. What layers do we want to see? Then you might notice that I turned off all my other layers except for foundation plan. That's okay. And what classes have I got? I've turned off. If we have a look here, there's not much on my drawing that I need to turn off. We've got wall scan. That was a scanned image of my walls from a previous the existing project. I've got recession planes turned on. I could turn that off. I could turn that back on again. It shouldn't make any difference because there isn't that information on this layer. So we got that. Top plane view, wireframe, none. The scale is 1:100. We'll have to see if this, I think 1:100, it's an in-between size, this house. At 1:50, it's too big for the piece of paper. There's not a lot of room around it. At 1:100, it just looks too small. And I'm going to choose a high level of detail. Now, if we choose a low level of detail, we will actually see things like the doors and windows will actually change their graphic design, and the walls will as well. So we need to be careful about changing the scale of these things because the detail can affect it. So that scale can affect some of the detail, but also choosing a different detail here. And a lot of people don't think about changing the detail. But windows and doors are set up so that at low detail, you just get a line. At medium detail, you can see the jamb, you can see the frame. But at high level of detail, you can actually see the thickness of the window glass. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so we're not going to clip hue. We're not going to do this. And click OK. So there it is at 1:100 on my page. So I said to you that it's a sort of an in-between size, this one. So if I choose 1:50, you can see it's too big. 1:100, it's not the right size. If I was using imperial, it would be so much easier because if we go to 1/8 scale, okay, well that's too small. We go to 1/4 scale, that's too big. But the imperial ones have got this lovely one in between, the 3/8, which would actually, oh, which way have I gone? 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, sorry, 3/16, which is a great scale because it's kind of in between. Now that works out to be 1 to 64. I guess in metric we could use 1 to 75, but hardly anyone does. So I'm going to use 1 to 100 again. Now the scale is important because depending on the scale of the design layer, the text is going to change its size here on our annotations. So let's go back and have a look at our foundation plan. I've right-clicked. My active scale is 1 to 100. So my scale here is 1 to 100, which means that this text here is exactly the same size as in my viewport. Now, if I change the scale of my viewport to 1 to 50, the text here will be much larger than it was before. It will be twice the size because of the scaling. Now, if you don't want that, then remove the text from this area and place the text in the annotation part of the viewport. So here's my viewport again. I've still left that little bit behind. Let's get rid of that. What's that? It's just a locus. It's just a locating point. And you notice it's locked. I often use these loci to lock positions on the screen, and I lock them so that I can do things like move my house around or move things relative to that. So let's have a look at my foundation. So now my foundation plan has no text. So one of the tricks I use with my viewports is if you double click in Vectorworks on the viewport, it opens a dialog box normally. But you'll notice if I double click, it doesn't. Let's go through why. Right click and edit. So this dialog box often comes up, and I see people doing this all the time. They double click, they choose annotations, and they click OK. And okay, fine, they don't see anything wrong with that. But it could be quicker. See, I do a lot of editing of the annotations. So what I like to do is to change this from opens this dialog box to edits the annotation. So let's just go through the normal way of doing it. So if someone wants to add an annotation, they double click, they choose annotations, they click OK. Let's edit that. Since I do so much, I change this to edits the annotation. So when I double click, I'm straight into the annotations. Now the answer from some people, or the question from some people is, but why? Why don't you go through that? Because how do you edit a design layer? Well, I right click and then I choose edit design layer. Now the great thing about the right click edit design layer is that you can right click on different objects in the drawing, in the viewport, and it will take you to that design layer. So if I had my site plan visible, I could right click here on my wall and say edit design layer. It would take me to my walls. And if I right clicked on where I could see the site plan, then it would take me to the site plan layer. Well, let me show you that. Okay, so let's go turn on the site model. Okay. So now you can see I've got both those things on. Let's go to classes. We need to turn off the... Now I could go to classes and turn off the recession plane. Well, let's see if the visibility tool will do it for us. There it is. So we can actually use the visibility tool to turn off objects in the viewport. Now if I turn these off, that's on the none class. That's not going to be helpful. So let's try this. So we right click on that wall, we edit the design layer, and our active layer is foundation. Okay. Right click on the site plan, edit design layer. Our active layer is now the site model. So to me, that's a much quicker, more effective way of getting to design or getting to the design layer rather than double clicking or using this edit design layer. Let's go here. So if you do this, then you have to choose the design layer, which one you're going to. Okay. Has anyone ever turned this on? Okay. I know it sounds like it might make sense to start with. So you go, okay, let's go and edit the foundation plan. Cool. Now I've got this big green border here. Now I'll tell you what would be really handy if that border only turned up once and it turned up on a class that was useful, something like non-plot. So the idea of this is that you can see where your viewport is, and it makes it really easy for you to make sure that your information is inside this area. Now, unfortunately, it makes something which is very heavy, and I don't mind it being a little bit heavy, and it makes it green, which is kind of cool because you can see where it is. But what I'd like to have it is on the non-plot. Now let's do that again. Let's exit. Let's edit the viewport again. So now I go edit design layer. Now you're not told that it's going to happen again, but another one is placed here. When I move it out of the way, there's two. So at some point you're going to have to go back to that, right click here, edit, and turn that off. Okay. So we've now got that. I go back to my layers. So maybe when you do a foundation plane, you want to see the proposed site model. So we've got here, it's a viewport, it's unstyled. I can now create a new style from this unstyled viewport. And I want this to be called foundation plans. Foundation plans. Oh, that's better. So is it standard? Is it a horizontal section? No, it's just a standard. Do we want to use the drawing label? Yes, we want to use that one. What layers do we want to see? We don't want to see the site model, just the foundation layer. Now, because we're using styles, these arrows here give me the knowledge, or they're the choice as to whether this is flexible or not. So when you have this, this parameter is set by style, which means that the settings I put in here are going to control it in the viewport. If I want to make it flexible and add information later, I need to make that flexible. This is what these slidey bars are. These slidey bars are saying that the parameter is controlling the setting. The scale, now if you're always going to use the scale, you can leave the scale alone. But if you want it to be flexible, then you need to click that button. It's going to be top plane view. I'm not going to change that. I'm not going to change that. The 2D background, I'm not going to change any of this information here. The projection is, so I want these to be fixed because this information I do not want to be flexible. But these I might want to make flexible because I might need to make this one to 200 at some projects or 1 to 50. So I need to have some flexible and some not. Now, when we come down here, you'll see that some parameters are grayed out. These are the ones that I made not flexible. The only ones I can change are these ones here that are not grayed out. I left those to be flexible. If I want to change the style, I need to go here. I need to click on the style pop-up, choose edit style, and then I can make changes to the style itself. Now, if I want to change or turn on different layers, I don't need to edit the style. I can just click here and I can say, don't want the site model on today, or I do want the site model, and I can make those changes. Now, I'm not going to cover very much about annotations today because I'm going to say that for another Viewport live, another YouTube live, and we're going to go through dimensioning and annotations. So I'm just looking at viewports today, but next week we're going to do annotation. So I'm going to look at all my little annotation tricks, and we'll look at chain dimensioning, and all that kind of stuff. So I've created a viewport. I've got a title block, which is it's very heavy lines. It's controlled by the style of the title block. I wasn't planning on doing title blocks, but if you want me to go through editing a title block, let me know in the comments and I'll have a look at that. So what I could do now, I've got this viewport. It's got the right angle and the right size and everything. Oh, there's a class here. Let's have a class non-plot. There should be a class for non-plot, which is turned on. I don't want to plot that thing, and that was my crop object. So that's really ready to go. I can put some detail references on there and so on. So let's have a look at the next one. So I'm going to copy that, go to the next drawing, which is my floor plan, and I'm going to go paste in place. Now I often use this as a keyboard shortcut because it's one of the few that I've learned, but it's really handy. Now this, when I come here, that's actually using my foundation plan style, but I could change this and say I want my floor, and let's click OK. What do we see? So we see everything. You can see I've got my plumbing and drainage, I've got my cars, got my notes, labels, all that sort of stuff. Now I can use my visibility tool, and I can turn off things I might not want to see, like the room number, or or turn off, where's my furniture? There it is. So turn off my furniture. I want to leave my door numbers, I want to leave my stair, I don't want to see cars, I might not want to see plumbing and drainage, but you can leave that on if that's something you need. Now I use a lot of colors in my viewports. And if you don't like using colors in the viewports, one of the settings we've got here on the advanced properties is to turn off we can turn on black and white only, but you see it's grayed out because it's one of the choices I made on my style. So if that's what you want, and you always want them to be black and white only, then why not edit the style, come down to the advanced properties and say, I want black and white only. You can also use this to control things like line weight scale. So if you want to bump up your line weights as you create viewports of different scales, let me know. So now it's black and white only, and it's something that's now going to be on all my viewports. So when I say all my viewports, if I go back to my foundation plan, that's also gone black and white only. Now it's black and white before, you can't see it. Okay, so let's copy this one, and we're going to go to floor plan 2. Let's look at our page, and I just used a keyboard shortcut, which just makes it quick to get to that button. And then I'm going to use paste in place. So let's go up to here. Where's it gone? View, edit, paste in place. There it is there. And it says foundation plan. Now the trouble is it's always saying foundation plan. This should say second floor plan. Oh, what did I do? Capital. I tried to capitalize the 2. Okay, that's second floor plan. I forgot to change this one here. That still says foundation plan. So first floor plan. Cool. And you'll also notice that my title block picks up the layer name here and puts it into the title block. And that's what a standard title block does. Let's just go back and have a look. Foundation plan. So all my labels are right in the middle where they belong. Roof plan. Let's go paste in place. I just used my keyboard shortcut. This is my roof plan. And all I need to do now is to change the layers and change that from that to the roof. And I haven't got a roof. Let's just check. Oh, my roof is turned off. Let's turn that on. And it's still not there. Maybe I've killed my roof. I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and have a look at it. So this one is still the first floor. Let's change that from first to second. It's my second floor. It's got that. Now it's showing demolished walls, which I don't want it to do. So we're going to use our visibility tool, hide demolished walls. So now it looks like the plan. I don't think there's any demolished walls on that one. And I'm going to have to go back and have a look at my roof plan and see what's going on. So back to my layers. Where's my roof? No, I do have, I thought I had a roof. So I don't want to see foundation. I got a roof. Let's turn all my classes on. And now a quick way to turn on all of your classes is to use your Option or Alt and then click on the column, and there's everything. That's on the class roof main. That's fine. Roof main, roof main. Okay, that's everything's there. That's my framing member, and that's my roof main. So that's roof to roof. Okay, let's go back to our drawing. Let's have a look at roof plan. And we're looking for the layers. So to floor, the to roof. Let's have a look at that. Preview. Oh, sweet. Okay, so that's my roof plan. Now there's a lot of information here that I don't want. So I've got all my rafters and my joists. I got my rafters and my purlins shown. So I don't want to see those. Now I've got them somewhere else, and I could search for them. I think they're all under structural. Structural, so I think they are rafted. There they are, the rafters and purlins. So let's turn those two off. Preview. And there's something there that's not turning off. So let's cancel that, and I'll use my visibility tool again. That's structural rafters visible. Okay, well, let's turn that off. These ones are purlins. Let's turn those off. And I've got here beams. Let's turn those off. So that leaves me with my roof plan. I use that visibility tool a lot, particularly in its classes state here. Where's it gone? Visibility. I use it here with turning off classes, but you can also use it to turn off individual objects. So if you had a small part of something you wanted to hide, but it wasn't on a special class, you can use that to turn it off. So I've got my roof plan. So it says roof plan here. What's next? So I've got a roof framing plan. Now this time, let's do my paste in place again. Let's go back to layers, and it's to roof that we want to see, not floor. And there I've got my framing members. So now you can see all my framing members now and my beams. I'm going to turn on the class for roof main. I think it's hiding. Let's start taking a step back. So let's go back. I want to show you how you can control things like the framing members on all your drawings. So let's go back here. Let's turn the framing members back on. And you can actually search via visibility, which I don't do very often, but it's a really handy trick. So you can actually go back to here, and these ones are invisible. I want them to be visible, and okay. Cool, and my roof main is showing. Now, I'm going to check this. This is my roof plan, and you can see down here it's named it as the drawing with the drawing, the sheet name and the drawing. So I want this to be my roof plan VP. Okay, and let's go to the next layer up. This one here, this is my floor plan, and that's just got a number. Go to the next one. Has this one got a, and that one's got a number as well. And then this one has a name. I thought I named this one, and Foundation Plan VP. Okay, so why have I done that? Let's have a look at Tools, Organization. So let's say, for example, we want to look at something like the structural rafters. I don't want to look for rafter, I want to look for purlins as well. So structural. So this is all my structural stuff. I don't want to look at the columns, don't want to look at the floor. I want to look at the roof. Beams, beam above, purlins, rafters. Now I want to look at these, and I want to turn these off on some viewports. So I go to viewports, and there they are there. There's their names here, and I find these names awkward. I find that one there awkward. I'd rather that one was site plan BP. And this one would be better if it was first floor VP, because I just find this a bit awkward. Now I've only got a handful of design layers and drawings here, so it's not so bad. This is my second floor plan. Second floor plan, and what was that? I thought I changed my foundation plan. Looks like I got two. Oh, I got another one here. This is not a foundation plan. This is my roof framing plan. So the drawing title should be this one here. Let's edit that one. This was my roof framing plan. Roof framing plan. Oh. Okay, and I want to change that to my roof framing VP. Now, what I was saying is that I've only got a few of them here, and it's not so bad. But if I had lots of these drawings, it's a real hassle to try to remember what drawing or what the viewport name was. Now, the reason I'm interested in this is that I want to have a look at the visibilities. So, and I'll look at classes. So when I look at classes, now you'll see that some of these are grayed out. I can't change them, but let's choose the rafters. So do I want my rafters to appear on the first floor plan? No. The second floor plan? No. The foundation? No. Roof framing plan? Yes. The roof plan? No. Sections? Yes. Site plan? No. Now I've also got the ability to control my saved views. Now I've got some. I don't want them to show up on my electrical plan or my first floor framing plan. Floor framing, no, I don't want them to show up there. But I do want them to show up if I'm using a rotated view. So this visibilities is a lot of people don't use this. But once you start using this visibilities, it is really powerful. You can really change a lot of things really quickly. So for example, let's say you had to add a class and you've got, 100 viewports you need to manage. This is really quick. But the other thing is, if you've got 100 viewports to manage and you didn't name these accurately, it is a nightmare. A lot of people I know create a viewport, they don't name it, they create another one or they copy and paste it. So you end up with all these viewports called viewport name. 01, 02, 03. You have no idea where they are. This one, at least this one is telling me what their names are. And these are just names that suit me. You can use other names. But the names are really handy because they do give you that ability to find them and then use this visibilities. And this is really quick. I find this visibilities super quick for managing all of your classes and layers in your viewports. But you have to name the viewports well. But if you get into the habit of naming the viewports well, it's not a problem. You'll get to the habit, you'll realize how important it is to keep doing it, and you'll find that it's really useful. So what are we up to? We're up to the roof plan, and up here, I've turned off my purlins for some reason. Let's go back to those visibilities and we'll have a look through. So classes, we were looking for structural purlins. Yeah, so they should all be turned on. Rafters. Let's have a look. Rafters, roof framing, don't want to see them there. Beams, we don't want to see them. Now, option click, I can do that and then turn off one. Beam above, I can turn them all off, and then just for my roof framing, turn them on. Purlins, turn them all off, and just turn them on for that one. Maybe those purlins aren't on the purlins. Maybe they're somewhere else. So let's do a search. Let's look for purlins and have a look. So there's roof. Oh, there's another one there. Look at that. I got 2 purlin classes. Well, that's a no-no, and I should really get rid of one of those. Can I do it here? I can delete that one. So let's delete that. Now there's information on this. I can either delete all of those purlins, or I can reassign. Now I may not be able to do anything to this, but I can reassign this to structural, and there was a structural roof, and there was purlins there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reassign all the objects to that class. It may work. There we are. So I've gotten rid of that class. So if we go OK, and we look at our roof framing plan, you can see there my purlins have turned up. So that's something that's really easy, is if you want to manage your classes, you can look through, you can use that. I use this a lot, this organization dialog box. It's really handy for doing all that management. So how are we getting on? We're going to run out of time. I need to do sections soon, but we're still here. We're still doing our floor framing. So paste in place. This should be our floor framing. Now there are times where I put one viewport on top of the other. So here what I want to see, I actually want to see the floor, this floor here. I need to see that slab as well, because that's all my floor framing. What I want to see is I want to see the 2 viewports, or sorry, the two design layers. Now, once I've done that and I start looking at the classes, you'll see that I've lost all my walls below. And the reason for that is that I've got a class for the floor. I've got a solid floor, and it prevents you seeing everything below. Now, if you haven't separated your floor framing from your walls, normally I would put these in the layer above. So I would have my walls and my floor framing on the same design layer, and then I'd want to be able to turn one off separate from the other. But that's really tricky, because if I've got a viewport with 2 layers if I got a viewport with 2 design layers, I want to turn off the walls in one design layer but not the other, then I have to have a separate class. But there is another way around. So let's edit this one. Let's edit that layer. We don't want to see the floor below. We just want to see the slab. And there we are. So what happened when we turn off? I didn't see what I did. Floor, preview. Oh yeah, I don't want to see all that stuff. That's true. Preview again. Okay. Now what I do want to see is I really want to see the floor below. I want to see the dotted lines of the walls below that are supporting my joists. But you noticed already that I can't do that, because when I do, I'll see the if I haven't got it separated. But what happens? Oh, there's a couple of tricks we can do. Okay, so first of all, let's turn on the floor. Let's have a look at that. Now you notice I've got a lot of information I don't want to see. So the first thing is visibility tool. We'll get rid of the services. Now that's going to turn off the wall, so I can't do that. But let's find our doors. And let's turn off everything to do with the door. Okay, so they've all gone. I got stairs, I got vertical circulation here. Cool, that's vertical circulation, got rid of that. And let's just, what we could do is we could go here and we could turn off the slab and just preview it and see what we would see otherwise. Okay, so the services there, we want to get rid of the services. Maybe, maybe not. We got services, plumbing maybe. Oh, that's layers. Classes. Plumbing. Okay, we're going to get rid of all of those. Again, I'm just going to use my option key, click. Let's have a look. So if we go layers and we hide the slab and preview it, there's some plumbing lines here. We can get rid of those as well. So visibility tool, get rid of that. Now, one of the tricks I can do is to go to my layers and I can change the stacking order of my layers. So the problem was that floor one was underneath the slab, and so I can't see it. So let's grab hold of that one and we'll move it up. Let's preview it. And now you can see my walls below. But they're actually very heavy. The line weights are really heavy. So let's zoom in, because what we want to do is we want to hide a lot of this information or make it not so see-through. So this is one of my favorite tricks in Viewports, is the classes. Let's find walls. So what have we got? We've got lining. We'll turn that off. We've got massing models. We'll turn all this off here. Structural floor foundation wall. We don't want to see that. We don't want to see the lintel. Don't want to see any point loads. Don't want to see balustrades. We want to see block work. We don't want to see those. So we don't want to see the components of our walls. Let's turn our wall components off. And I'm going to preview in a second. Let's turn all of that off. Turn off wall demolished. Existing block work we need to leave. Wall existing we need to leave. Existing block. There, I seem to have some duplicates here. Oh, it's a lot of wall classes. Okay, so we'll just leave all the rest. So let's preview it. What have we got? We got rid of a lot of stuff here. So now I'm going to select all the remaining walls. Now I shouldn't have that many, but I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to edit those, and I'm going to go to my graphic style, no fill, a line type. So they're all going to get a dashed line. That one there. They're going to have a thickness, which is 0.18. So 0.18 is not thin, but it's not heavy either. It's a nice medium. It gives just enough weight. So let's preview. Look at that. Isn't that sweet? So now I've changed all of my walls so that you can actually see they look like they're below, even though they're above. So I've actually changed that so that we can now show the projection of the what's supporting our walls. And it's a good idea to have a look now and see whether we're actually doing the right thing, because it looks to me like I've got a change here. I've got a balcony out here, and I've got a load-bearing wall above here, and I'm really sure that I should have a load-bearing wall underneath it, and I don't. So that would be something I'd need to go back and change in my design. That's not what we're here for today. We're here to look at viewports. Okay, so I don't know if I've got any more. Oh, so now let's start looking at sections. We might run out of time to do elevations. I don't know. But I think sections would be a good one to do. Now, what would be a really good section, I reckon, for this building is through the stairs. So let's go back to roof plan, floor plan. Okay, I want to do a section through the stairs. This is the stair from the bottom coming up, and I'm going to do a section. So to create a section, you can start here with the viewport. You can then go view, and you can create a section. We're actually getting shorter time to do this. There's a lot I want to cover in sections. I'm going to put sections on hold. We're going to do sections another day. So I'm going to go back to elevations next. And we haven't done details. So there's a lot we haven't covered today. We haven't covered sections, and we haven't covered details, and there's a lot of other things I wanted to cover. But we have covered quite a lot. I mean, there's so many things that we can do. We can connect details to our sections, all sorts of stuff. It's really quite cool. Okay, so let's create an elevation. So I'm going to go back to, now there's a couple of ways to do the elevation. Now a really lazy way would be to paste in place again, paste this view. We're going to change out this from a style. We could replace it with another style. Do I have a foundation plans in my library? I've got elevations. There's a north elevation. Let's select that one. Okay, what does that do to my viewport? Okay, let's try that. And you can see it's just gone missing. So let's edit my crop. Let's delete the crop. Where's my viewport? My viewport's miles away. It's over here somewhere. What layers am I seeing? Well, I should see that floor. I should see that floor. I should see the roof. Should I see the site model? So maybe this isn't going the way, this isn't, oh, and I've got a rotated view. Cool. So let's change our rotation to 0. Now there's our view, and you can see it's a pure north view looking at my building. But the problem is that my building isn't square on the page. So that viewport's completely useless. Let's get rid of it. Let's go back to our site plan layer, or our floor plan. Let's do floor 1. So that would be nice. We could do a view through here. Now to create an elevation, I use the section viewport. So I'm going to create a section viewport. I'm going to click here, come across the front of my building, click there, come down, double click. Now if you want to, you can create a multi-stage section that goes through the building like that. Delete, delete. I'm just hitting the delete key to get back to there. So now if I come down here and I double click, it creates a viewport, and it's a section viewport. Am I going to use the style? Not at the stage. This is my, I'm just trying to remember the direction. I think this is my north elevation. North elevation. I'm going to copy that because I'm going to reuse it. Create on layer, elevations. What layers do we want to see? We want to see the front view. We want to see the roof, the floor, and the site. Okay. What classes do we want to see? And now you're going to need to know which classes you need to have visible and go through those. And we've got here display extents beyond. Section plane, yes. And yes, we want to render. All of the stuff's going to be flexible. Advanced section properties. I'm not going to look at that in detail, although the one that would be quite useful is the extents beyond the cut plane. You can either make them finite or infinite. And if you make them infinite, make sure that you make the box deep enough to go through all your elevation. If you don't know what I mean, you'll see it happen in a minute. So there's my section there. What did I do? I didn't bother to select where it went. I'm not sure I can go back and change this now, but yeah, I'm going to have to delete that. So I'm going to go through all of that again, but you can see here it only created like a 10 foot deep. So where were we? Floor, that one there. So it's unlinked. So I'm going to do this again. I'm going to create a section viewport. Now I've deleted the section, but I've left the indicator. So what layers do we want? Yes, yes, and site model. Yeah. Now the problem I've done here is that I've put it on the sections elevations design layer, and I should have put it on my elevations sheet layer. And now all of this is flexible, and all of this is making a lot more sense. Okay, so there is my elevation. And we've done the 10 feet going back, and all I've got is a tiniest little bit of my building. If we go back to our floor and have a look, and when I select this, you'll see this dotted outline here. That's my extent. If I grab that and take it beyond the ridge line, that should give me my building. Now, when you're doing this, one of the tricks I use quite a lot is the multiple view panes. Let's close that one. This view pane is going to look at my sheet layer, elevations. So I can see my sheet layer, and if I update that, you can see I've got my entire building, but what I might want to do is to bring this in a little bit so I don't see too much of that. And I click here and I can update that again. Now at the moment it's showing everything. It's showing the recession planes, which is quite handy, but what I might want to do is to trace over those and then remove them. I've got my site going through here, that's great. I might want to do a dotted line for the existing so that I can see the existing and trace over that annotation of the viewport. Okay, that's good. So let's have a look at our drawings. So this is my advanced properties. So that's my section. I'm going to hide my multiple view panes now. Let's have a look at our advanced properties. Length is limited by section line. The height range, I'm going to leave that as infinite. Let's update that again. Cool. There it is there. All right, that's looking good. That's my recession plane there. Oh, my recession plane's just in. So double click, I'm into the annotations. I only get my polygon because I do need to draw the recession plane on there. Let's make sure I'm snapping to those objects. Doesn't want to snap to that. I'm not going to worry about it at the moment. Okay, so now that I've got that, I can exit the viewport. I can now go back to my classes and I can turn off my recession planes. And update. Cool, so now I've got my dotted recession plane. I can change this to a line type. It can be dotted. Let's choose a dash. That one there. So now you can see that my house does fit on its site. I don't go through my setback lines, and I can just start changing classes. So this is my original site through here. Have we got time for that? I'm not sure we do. So there's still things I'd love to show you. I'm going to leave it at that point. I think I've covered enough at the moment to get started with viewports. This is just getting started, but there's some more things I want to cover here. So I want to finish off with this elevation because it's a section viewport, but also when I go back to a site plan, you'll see that you can't see the elevation lines at all. You have no idea where they are. Now, one of the things with sections, if I cover sections in another YouTube, I think I better show you at that point. There's so many little tricks that I'll do. So, time to wrap up. Do we have any questions about what I covered in my viewports? Changing the black and white, controlling, using the preview, naming them. There's a lot of really valuable things that I've covered today. I hope I've covered some information that's really, really valuable for you. I do want to spend just a couple of minutes and tell you about my new website, my community. It's really fantastic. What I was covering today is a little bit of what I cover in this course here, the Vectorworks for Domestic Architecture. And there's a course here that goes through all the architectural things you need. We've got an architect class as well. We've got a foundation and a Vectorworks architect. We've got a landmark course. Getting started, well, I've got loads of tips and tricks and manuals that cover lots of topics that we cover. So if you want to get the best Vectorworks training you can, go check out my community. It's a 7-day free trial. Most people that start the trial end up subscribing. It's great value for money. It really is. There is so much here, and it's such a helpful community. So thanks, everybody. I'm going to wrap it up now. So thanks very much. Now, I've stopped the recording, but the session is still live. If you've got a question, type it in the live chat. Let me know that you're there and let me know what your question is. I'm really keen to help you with your questions, but I need to know what they are. So leave me a chat, type in the chat area. So Richard, thank you for coming. Did I cover everything that you found useful? Well, thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you later.